Hi, and welcome to Delightful D, where culture and conversation meet. I'm your host, DJ, and let's dive right in. So today, we're going to actually be discussing the top 3 things that are considered culture when Africans do them, but are considered ghetto when Black Americans do them. Now, if you are anything like me, you've been in these diaspora streets for a while, and you've begun to notice the hypocrisy that is present when we discuss the contributions of Black Americans to the wider Black culture as opposed to the contributions of Africans. More specifically, when Black people create dances, when Black people create music, style, food, and anything else, it is automatically ascribed this ghetto title or this low class title. But if we take that very same creation and we say that an African person created it, oh boy, it suddenly becomes culture. It suddenly becomes classy. It suddenly becomes something that is deep and beyond all human comprehension. And the more that I teased this apart, the more that I realized that this is heavily rooted in racism and discrimination. And we're going to be talking about that today. So with no further ado, let's jump right into the top 3 things that are considered culture when Africans do them, but ghetto when Black Americans do them. Number 3. Greasy food. Now, it is no secret that Black Americans get down in the kitchen, whether it is delicious, crispy fried chicken, collard greens, baked mac and cheese, or any of the other amazing dishes that we've created. We all know that we like flavor in our food. We do not like dry food. So we are not going to skimp on the grease in any way. And the most common criticism that we hear is that, oh, it's so bad for you, and oh, it's not healthy. Okay, that's a fair point. But why do we never hear these criticisms leveled at African cuisine? I don't hear anyone calling out red pepper stew from Nigeria when Nigerians use a half a bottle of palm oil to create it. It's delicious, it's tasty, but yes, it's greasy. And so I think we need to begin to start to really ask ourselves, why is it that when Black Americans create these delicious foods, it's criticized left, right, and center, and people have their calculators out and they're counting calories and they're counting how much grease was used? But none of this criticism is leveled at African cuisine because it's culture. Number 2, creative hairstyles. Now, we know that Black Americans really take it to the max when it comes to hair. Hair is a very prized item in Black American society. It just is. And it is a very complex and multi-layered discussion when it comes to hair and how we relate to it. But even going back to the old days, even in the 50s, Black women were freaking hairstyles with swoops and pin curls and edges and laying them down. And even thinking about the 90s with the French rolls and the buns and the tendrils coming out. And it's just amazing, the creativity. Even if you think about our braided hairstyle creations, they are imitated all over the world. And they're called ghetto. They are dismissed. And what's happening lately is that folks are even trying to take credit for themselves and saying that Black Americans did not create these things when clearly we did. But if we take a quick trip to any of the 54 countries in Africa and we look at the tribal hairstyles, where there are swoops and there's braids and there's parts and all sorts of materials are used to create these really, complex hairstyles, no one's calling it ghetto. No one's calling it low class. No one's saying she's doing too much. So it appears that if a hairstyle is placed on a Black American woman, it suddenly loses its cultural value and significance. But if you place that same hairstyle on a Fulani woman, now all of a sudden it's culture. And the number one thing that is considered culture when Africans do it, but ghetto when Black Americans do it, twerking. Yes, I had to go there. Twerking. Twerking, whether you love it or hate it, is an art form that was created by Black American women in the streets and the houses of the dirty South. It is a sensual and sexual dance to some degree because it involves the isolation and the movement of body parts. Now, that in itself doesn't make it bad. It just makes it a part of the culture. And we've seen mainstream society take this art form and profit for themselves. Now, the biggest argument that I hear from folks from Africa about twerking is that it's not ghetto when African women do it because African women don't do it in a sexual way. Well, I'm confused because the African woman is shaking her butt and she's throwing it in a circle and she's making it clap just like the Black American woman is doing it. So why is it suddenly so cultural and so precious and so non-sexual because the woman that's doing it happens to be in Africa as opposed to America? So because the African woman is doing it in a circle with her relatives present, that makes it somehow less sensual? I don't think so. I think it is just as sensual, it's just as sexual, and it's beautiful. Women have been moving our bodies for health and sensuality for thousands of years. And I don't care whether you go to Africa, America, Asia, or Europe, women are going to move our bodies. And so this inherent idea that the Black woman in Atlanta, Georgia, who moves her body and shakes her butt is somehow ghetto, but if a woman in Nigeria does the exact same dance, but she does it with a head wrap, suddenly it's cultural and it's acceptable. That's a double standard, and it's one that we should actually be questioning rather than supporting. So there you have it. Those are my top 3 things that are considered culture when Africans do it, but ghetto when Black Americans do it. Is there one that I left off the list that you think should be included? Let me know in the comments below.